Hello, everybody, and welcome to World Talks. My name is Don Arleth, and let's get started. The U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered a freeze and thorough review of all U.S. aid abroad. The United States is the largest global donor when it comes to international aid, and this move will have real-life implications not only for the developing world, civil society, and young democracies, but also for Ukraine and their ability to concentrate and fight the war with Russia. And now joining me to discuss these impacts is Grzegorz Gruca, Vice President of Polish Humanitarian Action. Hello, Grzegorz, and thank you for joining us tonight. Your organization does a lot of good work in Ukraine, and this freezing of USAID affects you, doesn't affect you?
Well, it definitely affects us, because even the whole concept of freezing life-saving operations was very disturbing. But now we just recently got to know that Secretary Rubio has decided to give a waiver to the life-saving activities. So basically all activities will be, maybe one piece will not be fully implemented, by the rest of the operations that are aiming at IDPs, health issues, access to water will continue.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Now, for your, under your experience in Ukraine and all the organizations that are relying on this aid to do various things, and we've heard from the, electricity infrastructure, as you just mentioned, clean drinking water and what have you. How big of an impact will this have on Ukraine? The decision to freeze this USAID?
We will see. Well, one component of our activities is multi-purpose cash assistance. So we are basically handing out cash to the people that are internally displaced. They don't have access, or they lost their jobs, or they lost their homes. So we'll see how this will be reviewed, and will it be one of the areas that will be allowed to continue. And the uncertainty is something that is really disturbing, because we are talking about human lives, and this is definitely a big burden for us to deal. Although we have encountered similar situation in the previous under the previous Donald Trump administration, all the projects have been put on hold for 3 months, and then there were the funds were unfreezed. And we've received all the funds for the work that we've done. And so if an organization has its own funds and can resist and can, continue for the period of the freeze, then hopefully they might also get reimbursement for their activities.
Well, they say it's supposed to be 90 days, but now we have mixed signals coming in. Elon Musk saying that President Trump told him to completely get rid of USAID. The organization.
He said you can't save it.
Yes, and we're talking, this is around $50 billion, which goes to various causes all around the world. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that maybe potentially this Doge will come in and try and clean up what it finds as far as the inappropriate spending and what have you, and the program will continue? Or
I really don't know. As in many cases, we don't know what is really going to happen. But I think that after Second World War period, USAID has proved that it has been giving tremendous assistance to many countries. We have witnessed in Poland many projects under the presence of USAID in Poland after the floods in 1997. We see food aid all over the world, where we have our projects in Somalia, South Sudan. You see those, grain baskets with USAID and logo on it, and it's everywhere. So it's really hard to imagine that it will stop, and who is going to take over? Who is going to deliver all this food, all this aid to the most needy people around the world?
Right, it's absolutely crucial. I'm going to ask you a difficult question. Since you know what it's like dealing with USAID, is there any weight to this that there is corruption in such a large structure? I think they have 60,000 employees, 80% of which are based abroad. They deal with $50 billion.
I will answer your question. Yeah. There is a large piece of USAID projects aiming to fight corruption. So, and if you are an AID partner, you have to go through a very thorough process of proving that your procedures in every piece of your activity are transparent, and choosing partners, spending money on every level. I think it's very unlikely that, that it might happen with so many employees in so many countries. There can be always a person who is doing wrongdoing, but in our experience, we were really living up to the standard of USAID with our organization and local organizations that are partners in Ukraine. And I think all the people that we were working with had very high moral standards in USAID, so we don't know.
Okay, another difficult question.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great answer. And another difficult question, that is, in your experience, have you ever seen programs that seem to be radical or don't make much sense, standing up for, say, the U.S. taxpayer?
Well, if you look at the figures that the USAID was spending, it's a huge amount of money. So you can always find something that went wrong or something, but usually if you are a USAID partner, you are responsible with your own funds for the project that you are running. And if something goes wrong and some money will not be accounted for, you have to basically give back the money. It might sometimes happen with the governments, because then the governments think that they are out of, they are in the country, they are the rulers and they are, in charge. And sometimes maybe that is the area, but with NGOs, very unlikely.
The World Health Organization is also on the chopping block. Donald Trump has withdrawn from that organization. How do you think that's going to affect the developing nations of the world and the work that the World Health Organization does?
Well, when politics goes into humanitarian assistance, medical assistance, it's always ending up in a bad solution. And where we have some programs that are aiming at assistance in the health sector, for example, in Yemen or sometimes in Somalia, the World Health Organization is usually a primary deliverer. They deliver stocks, they deliver goods for health clinics. So it will also be quite difficult for the organization to rely on smaller donors and the remaining donors that are within the organization. So it will definitely diminish the amount of aid delivered.
Is it possible that perhaps funding some of these organizations, especially within the auspices of the United Nations, need to be rethought to some extent? The economic situation of the world has changed since a lot of these agreements were made.
True.
Should the United States share such a large share of the burden?
Well, the second largest donor is EU in the world. So I think that also, EU's economy is not doing very well nowadays, but I think the share could be more fair. And I think Europe is already doing a lot. That the Polish presidency is now in place, and there is a lot of talking about security, and I think security in many aspects, also the security for people that are striving to survive with the droughts in Africa and other places, is something that Europe has to be really aware of and has to step up and do more.
Turning our attention back for the remainder of the few minutes that we have in Ukraine, what are some of the most important programs that you think right away, right now, are impacted by this and will continue to be impacted this year?
Well, as I mentioned, the one about multi-purpose cash assistance, people don't have other income sources. So if we'll cut off the only income source that they have, or cut half of the income, and people are already very striving to survive, and especially during the winter, we are buying, for example, fuel. We are buying woods for people to be able to survive the winter. So I think these programs should be supported and should be continued. For other projects that are not humanitarian assistance, I don't think I have the competence to talk about.
Is it possible, President Zelensky mentioned that in certain aspects the Ukrainian state would have to take on the financial burden. Do you think that they're in a position to do so?
I don't know what is the real state of Ukrainian state, but I think they are relying very much on international aid also to run the country. So if the funds will come from other sources, maybe they can somehow supplement the lack of the funds that will be coming from USAID or the US government.
Yeah, well, I hope Elon Musk and his Doge can quickly review, identify the waste, and get back to business as usual.
We do hope so too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Grzegorz Gruca, Vice President of Polish Humanitarian Action, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. And that concludes this round of World Talks. Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.